The desperate schemes of Quraysh.
Amidst the harshest years of persecution, Quraysh stooped to their vilest. One day, the wretched idolater Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt approached the Prophet as he bowed in prayer. With cruelty in his heart, he stepped on the Prophet's blessed neck, pressing so hard that his eyes bulged from the pain. Such was the hatred that burned in the hearts of the Quraysh elite. But their rage was far from quenched.
Abu Yal's deadly plot. Abu Yal, the archenemy of Islam, devised a sinister plot.
Standing among his people, he declared, "Muhammad continues to mock our gods, disgrace our forefathers, and discredit our way of life. I swear by our gods, I will take a massive rock and crush his head while he prostrates."
The crowd roared in approval.
The next morning, Abu Jahl crept silently toward the Prophet, who had begun his prayer near the Kaaba. Quraysh waited nearby, eager for the fatal blow. But as Abu Jahl approached, rock in hand, his face turned pale. His hands trembled. The rock slipped from his grip. He staggered back, stunned and shaken. I saw a terrifying creature. A male camel, never before seen, with giant fangs. It blocked my path. The Prophet later explained. That was Gabriel. Had Abu Jahl taken another step, Jibril would have struck him down. Still, Quraysh were unmoved by this divine warning. Their thirst for the Prophet's blood only grew.
The Treat foretold.
One day, the Prophet passed through Al-Hijr, near the Kaaba. A group of Quraysh leaders mocked him, as they often did. He bore their insults twice in silence. But on the third, he stopped and turned toward them. "O people of Quraysh! I swear by Allah, in whose hand is my soul, you shall be slaughtered."
Silence fell.
The blood drained from their faces. Suddenly, their bold jeers turned into nervous flattery. "Leave Abul Qasim. You have never been a fool." Even the enemies trembled at the force of divine truth. The worst of the worst. Later, Abdullah bin Amr bin Alaz was asked what the worst moment of abuse against the Prophet was. He replied, "The Prophet was praying inside Al-Hijr of the Kaaba when Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt came and wrapped his cloak around his neck, choking him violently. Suddenly, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq rushed forward, pushed the attacker away and cried out, 'Will you kill a man just for saying, my Lord is Allah?'" The dawn of strength. Hamza accepts Islam. Amid this storm of hatred, a new light dawned. In Dhul Hijjah of the 6th year of prophethood, something extraordinary happened. Would you like me to continue with the dramatic story of Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib's conversion, the Lion of Allah joining the ranks of the oppressed? The Lion awakens. Hamza's conversion. One day, as the Prophet quietly walked near the Kaaba, Abu Jahl, driven by arrogance, confronted him and hurled insults at Islam. The Prophet, with remarkable restraint, said nothing. But Abu Jahl escalated, picked up a stone, and struck the Prophet's blessed head, causing it to bleed. Satisfied with his cowardly act, he strutted to his gathering of Quraysh nobles. But destiny had other plans. Shortly afterward, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's brave uncle, returned from hunting, his bow slung over his shoulder. A slave girl of Abdullah bin Juddan, having witnessed the incident, rushed to him and recounted Abu Jahl's assault on his noble nephew. Hamza's blood boiled. Without a second thought, he stormed toward Al-Kaaba, where Abu Jahl sat boasting. In front of Quraysh's elite, Hamza struck Abu Jahl's head with his bow, then roared, "So you insult Muhammad? Know that I too follow his religion and affirm what he proclaims." The men of Banu Makhzum rose in defense of their man, while Banu Hashim stood ready to back Hamza. But Abu Jahl, still reeling from the blow, raised his hand and said, "Leave Abu Umrah. By Allah, I did insult his nephew shamelessly." A second thunderclap, the conversion of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Only 3 days later, another seismic shift occurred. The Prophet had once prayed, "O Allah, strengthen Islam with the one you love more, Umar ibn al-Khattab or Abu Jahl bin Hisham."
Allah chose Umar.
At the time, he was a fierce opponent of Islam, bold, sharp-tongued, and feared in Mecca. Yet within his chest raged an internal battle. On one hand, devotion to tradition. On the other, a grudging admiration for the Muslims' unshakable faith. One evening, while the Prophet prayed near the Kaaba, Umar quietly approached and overheard his recitation, Surah al-Haqqa, the reality. The verses thundered with truth. His heart stirred. His mind trembled. He walked away, but not unchanged. Would you like me to continue with the climactic moment of Umar's full conversion, when the sword of a bitter enemy turned into a shield for Islam? The lion is tamed, the final flame in Umar's heart. The tension in Umar's heart grew unbearable. He had once stood in the shadows of the Kaaba, listening to the Prophet reciting verses from Surah al-Haqqa. The majestic rhythm, the piercing words, and the firm denial of lies and sorcery stirred something inside him. He heard the declaration, "Verily, his is the word of an honored messenger. It is not the word of a poet. Little is it that you believe. Nor is it the word of a soothsayer. Little is it that you remember. It is a revelation from the Lord of all creation." Quran 69:40, 43. The words seared into his soul, but his pride held him hostage. Despite that flicker of light, Umar doubled down. He swore to end Muhammad once and for all. Sword in hand, fury in his eyes, he marched through Mecca, set on assassination. But Allah had a different plan. On the road, Nu'aym ibn Abdullah spotted him. Startled, he asked, "Where to, O Umar?" "I go to kill Muhammad, the man who split Quraysh and insulted our gods." Nu'aym replied, "Then why not begin at home?" He swore to end Muhammad once and for all. Sword in hand, fury in his eyes, he marched through Mecca, set on assassination. But Allah had a different plan. On the road, Nu'aym ibn Abdullah spotted him. Startled, he asked, "Where to, O Umar?" "I go to kill Muhammad, the man who split Quraysh and insulted our gods." Nu'aym replied, "Then why not begin at home? Your own sister and her husband have accepted his religion." That stopped Umar in his tracks. Without a word, he turned and strode to his sister Fima's house. As he approached, he heard Kababab ibn Alarit inside, reciting verses from Surah A with Makron Ha. Kababab hid. Fima hid the scroll. But it was too late. "What was that I heard?" Umar demanded. "They denied it." He struck his brother-in-law violently. Fima rushed to shield her husband. In his rage, Umar struck his sister, and blood streaked her face. But she stood firm. "Yes, O enemy of Allah, we are Muslims. We believe in Allah and His Messenger. Do whatever you wish." Umar stopped. His sister's bravery, her bleeding face, and the truth in her words disarmed him. "Ashamed," he said. "Let me see what you were reading." Fima replied, "You are impure. Only the pure may touch the Quran. Go and wash first." He did. Then, hands trembling, he read, "A with Makron Ha. We have not sent down to you the Quran that you be distressed, but only as a reminder for those who fear Allah." Quran 20:1-3. As he continued, the layers of ignorance fell away. The verses reached the core of his heart. His soul surrendered. Tears welled in the eyes of the man once feared by all of Mecca. "Take me to Muhammad," he said. Would you like me to continue with Umar's arrival at Dar al-Arqam and the moment the believers saw their fierce enemy become their brother in faith? The lion roars for truth. Umar enters Islam. In a moment that would echo through history, Umar stood, sword slung at his side, his heart pierced by the words, "Verily, I am Allah. There is no deity but me. So worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance."
Quran 20:14.
The verses had shattered every wall of pride and ignorance within him. Humbled, trembling, he declared,
Guidame tu Muhammad.
Kababab, hearing this, emerged from hiding, his eyes wide with hope. "O Umar," he said, "I heard the Prophet say, O Allah, strengthen Islam with either Umar ibn al-Kab or Abu Jahl. I hope today you are the answer to that prayer." Without hesitation, Umar marched toward Dar al-Arqam, the secret gathering place of the Prophet and his followers. Inside, the companions were still afraid of him. When they peered through a gap and saw Umar standing outside, sword glinting, they froze in fear. But Amza, already a Muslim and full of courage, said, "Let him in. If he comes with good, we welcome him. If he comes with evil, we kill him with his own sword." The door opened. The Prophet walked forward and seized Umar by his cloak and sword, staring into his soul.
O sono Falcab, why have you come? And the storm inside Umar broke. O messenger of Allah.
I have come to believe in Allah and His Messenger, and what He has brought from His Lord. A thunderous takbir shook the room.
Allahu Akbar.
The companions' joy overflowed. Islam had gained its fortress.
The day fear changed sides. Umar earns the title al-FRQ.
When Umar ibn al-Khattab embraced Islam, the underground movement of Muslims in Mecca rose to its feet. No longer hiding in shadows. No longer praying in whispers. No longer fearing the wrath of Quraysh. Not long after taking his shahada, Umar turned to the Prophet and asked, "Aren't we upon the truth, whether in life or death?" The Prophet replied, "Indeed, by the one in whose hand is my soul, we are upon the truth." That was all Umar needed. Then why do we hide?
By Allah, we shall march out.
And so they did, 2 columns of believers, one led by Umar, the other by Amza. They walked straight to the Kaaba, in full daylight, eyes forward, heads high. Mecca held its breath. The chieftains of Quraysh watched in stunned silence. Their faces turned pale. The men they once whipped and mocked now stood firm, openly praying, speaking the words of the Quran aloud within the sacred sanctuary. It was on that day that the Prophet gave Umar a name that would mark his legacy. "You are al-Faraq, the one who separates truth from falsehood."
Ibn Mazd Said.
We could not pray at the Kaaba until Umar became Muslim. Su'aib ar-Rumi added, "After Umar's Islam, we proclaimed the message openly, assembled freely, and even began to defend ourselves." The Muslims were no longer a secret. They were a presence. Quraysh turns from whips to words. Now that force had failed, the leaders of Mecca tried a new tactic: temptation. They gathered in Al-Hijr, near the Kaaba, and sent one of their smoothest talkers, Utbah ibn Rabah. He approached the Prophet, trying to sound reasonable, even sympathetic. "O Muhammad, you have divided our people, insulted our gods, and broken our unity. If it's wealth you want, we'll give you more than any man in Mecca. If you seek status, we'll make you our leader. If you want kingship, we'll crown you. And if a spirit haunts you, we'll find a healer."
The day revelation shook a chieftain, Utbah's encounter with the Quran. Mecca's leaders had tried pressure, torture, and bribes, and none of it silenced the Prophet. So they gathered in Al-Hijr once more, desperate to try something else. "Let Utbah ibn Rabah speak with him," they said. "He's eloquent. Persuasive. Let him offer a deal." Utbah approached the Prophet, seated in calm resolve. He began, "O Muhammad, if it is wealth you seek, we will gather it. If it is honor, we will make you our leader. If it is kingship, we shall crown you. If it is madness, we shall find you a cure. But stop preaching. You've divided us." The Prophet listened patiently, then asked, "Have you finished, Abu al-Walid?" "Yes," Utbah replied. Then came the reply, not in the Prophet's words, but in the voice of revelation. "In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate." Hamim. A revelation from the most merciful. A book, whose verses are made clear. An Arabic Quran, for a people who know. A bearer of good news and a warner. Surah Fulat 41:1-4. The Prophet recited, and Utbah leaned back on his hands, silent. Then came the verse that thundered through the chieftain's chest like a storm. "But if they turn away, then say, I have warned you of a blast like that which struck Ad and Thamud." 41:13. At this, Utbah leapt up, his face pale, trembling, afraid. He rushed forward and placed his hand on the Prophet's mouth. "I beg you, in the name of kinship and Allah, stop. Do not go on. Spare Quraysh this fate." He fled back to the leaders of Mecca, shaken. They rose to meet him. "What news, Abu al-Walid? What did he say?" But their spokesman was no longer the same man. "I have heard words, O people of Quraysh, that are like nothing I've ever heard before. They are not poetry, nor magic, nor soothsaying. They hold a power, a message, a warning." He paused. "If others among the Arabs destroy him, you are spared. But if he succeeds, then his kingdom is yours to share." The leaders scoffed. "He has bewitched you too, Abu al-Walid." But Utbah said no more. He had heard truth, and truth had shaken him. Abu Talib assembles Bani Hashim and Bani al-Muttalib. The new and welcome changes notwithstanding, Abu Talib still had a deep sensation of fear over his nephew. He deliberated on the previous series of incidents, including the barter affair of Amara bin al-Walid, Abu Jahl's rock, Uqba's attempt to choke the Prophet, and finally Umar's, before conversion, intention to kill. MSNAU 74 Muhammad, Bull. The wise man understood that all of these unequivocally smacked of a serious plot being hatched to disregard his status as a custodian of the Prophet, and kill the latter publicly. In the event of such a thing, Abu Talib deeply believed, neither Umar nor Hamza would be of any avail, socially powerful though they were. Ibn Hisham 1/269, Muqtasar Seerat ar Rasul page 106, Abu Talib was right. The polytheists had laid a carefully studied plan to kill the Prophet, and banded together to put their plan into effect. He, therefore, assembled his kinsfolk of Bani Hashim and Bani al-Muttalib, sons of Abd Manaf, and exhorted them to immunize and defend his nephew. All of them, whether believers or disbelievers, responded positively except his brother Abu Lahab, who sided with the idolaters.